What's going on, guys? My name is RagingRaptor and I welcome you to a new World of Tanks review, and today we are going to have a look at the Kampfpanzer 50T. I'm purposely calling it a review because in theory I did finish playing this tank. In 123 games I was able to get the third gun mark on this tank. I needed around 3858 combined damage. Took me longer than the Felix, the German community manager, Marty Wolle and Dakilso. They both were much faster at finishing that tank. Those are the CCs I do know also finished that tank because I saw them on stream or they talked about it on stream finishing it. Well, a quick little overview before we dive into the stats. I had 123 games in this tank, I had a 70.7% win rate in it, and I did survive 47% of the games, meaning that there were games where I simply didn't die even though we lost. In the end, I had a damage per game of around 3200, and I did have 1000 spot damage in total. My max damage was 6500 and my max kills was 7. And in the end, I did have a game against Dakilso where I proudly can say I got the kill on him. He can say whatever he wants. He had 6 damage more. I won. We won the game. I killed him. Screw you, Ducky. And cheers to you, buddy. So yeah, let's jump into the stats of this tank. The first thing I want to talk about is just the firepower of this vehicle, because it's a very unique take on a German medium tank at this rank. Because you might think, oh, this tank looks very familiar, it looks like an E50, and I have to say, not really. It's a little bit of a crossbreed between the E50 and the T55 or T54 in that sense. It has just a 320 alpha gun, even though it's a 105mm gun. This gives us some unique aspects I'm going to talk about when we are having a look at the tank's damage model. But you have a pretty decent DPM of 2900, which is way up there. However, I do want to point out I did use the bounty rammer because it was kindly provided by Wargaming and was like, sure, let's try to have it on the Kampfpanzer 50T. So this is why I have a 6.6 second reload time with a Brothers in Arms crew, no vents, but with chocolate and the bounty rammer. The aim time of this tank is pretty decent. The accuracy is okay-ish. It could be a little bit better, but sometimes I just felt I did ask too much of the tank while playing this tank. I was always like, what the hell is going on? Why is it not hitting anything? Because sometimes, even because it's 0.3 accuracy on paper, it doesn't mean the tank is incredibly accurate. But yeah, DPM otherwise is great. Stabilization on the move is okay-ish. I know some people will lynch me for saying this, but sometimes I did feel like you could run, instead of the vertical stabilizer, a bounty GLD to maybe make this tank a little bit better when it comes to stop and go, rather than just shooting on the move. Because the accuracy on the move is not that good. One final thing I do have to point out, the APCR is pretty fast. It's a standard round with 268mm of penetration, which is a gorgeous thing to have on tier 9. And you have heat rounds as premium rounds, meaning only 310mm, well, only, it's still very good. It's much better than what you have on the E50, for example. But because it has APCR, means you have the opportunity to penetrate tanks which have not overmatchable armor, like the Stritzwagen 103, Stritzwagen 103B, or even the youuuu tanks. This heat makes this tank a lot more comfortable to play. And because you have a 105mm gun, you have something very unique as well. You can overmatch 90mm armor plates, which is, for example, found on other tanks like the Stritzwagen S1. So this can really do help you against other tanks which have just 100mm guns or even 90mm guns. So that is very a nice little feature combined with the heat rounds as well. Before we jump to the the armor model of the Kampfpanzer 50, quickly I want to talk about one final thing. Because it has a 105mm gun and not a 100mm gun, it means that its damage versus modules is higher than what you have on 100mm guns, as you can see right here. It's 150 versus 135, meaning you do have the option to have a little bit more module damage. But now let's have a look at the armor model, and the things you have to note is the turret is 250 millimeters thick. That is pretty strong. It's pretty decent and you can bounce some shots. But you can't 100% rely on it. It's not a chieftain turret, seriously. People can shoot through it in weird angles like this one. This one right here is your weak spot. It absorbs a little bit of heat because of this block of spaced armor, even though it is literally 0 armor, but it's only 200 millimeters behind, so this is basically the weak spot you have on your turret, and maybe that thing in the back when you're able to hit it. The main weak spot of this vehicle is its side and rear armor. Side armor only 40 millimeters thick, rear armor only 20 millimeters. Seriously, I think in the 123 games I've played, I got one shot or penned by artillery 5 to 10 times. Didn't count it properly, but I do know I got penned a lot. And it's very frustrating when this happens because your side armor is that garbage. This also means that Russian tanks like the Object 430 have you for breakfast, as they can overmatch your side armor. If you only show a teeny tiny touch side armor, it immediately will have overmatch. And don't forget, even 90mm guns can detract you from the front with damage because they will overmatch this 20mm plate. The armor of this tank when it comes to the hull is really not spectacular, and it's very prone to artillery fire. So yes, if you see Kampfpanzer 50T driving around, you know somebody had to put in a lot of time in ranks, and he's probably not too bad of a player in most cases. And yeah, artillery will eat them for breakfast if they hit them. They will pen sometimes, they will do massive splash damages, and that is very, very unfortunate. The whole armor, if you are able to hide your lower plate, is pretty decent, but I did notice that ramming with this vehicle is not as effective as you would have it on the E50, so I would not really go for it, only in very, very certain cases. The whole armor on the E50 is a lot better than it is on the Kampfpanzer 50T. But that is to the armor. One more thing I do want to point out. It rarely burns. It has a 12% burn rate on its engine. I think I didn't burn once in the game. However, the ammo rack is very, very weak. Even while using safe storage, I did got ammo racked here and there a lot of the time. It wasn't an ammo rack explosion, but very, very often I lost my ammo rack. It died very, very quickly. It really does feel in that kind of sense like a Leopard 1. And its problem is the ammo rack is in the front, like here or here. So you can get detracked and ammo racked with the same shot. Keep that in mind. Next up, we have the mobility, and the mobility of this vehicle is very formidable. It's very good. You have an almost 18 HP per ton ratio, which makes this tank go pretty darn quick. You have 60 kph top speed, which you can reach without big issues. You have 20 kph backward speed, you have a quick turning hull, and you have a pretty decent weight as well. So again, you can ram, but it's not as effective as you would have on an E50, because the E50's armor is simply better suited for ramming, because it doesn't have this weak 30 and even 20mm plates right around the impact zone. So keep that in mind. But mobility wise, I didn't found any shortcoming. It's a fast, maneuverable, and still very decently armored tank. And lastly, we have camouflage values and fuel range values, and here there's not much else to say except for camouflage. It is very good camouflage. Like, I did feel like this tank has very, very good camouflage, and it is a stealthy boy. It is also not that big, so I was able to stand on sometimes on the open field without getting spotted. It has better camouflage values than the Leopard PTA. And the fuel range is just a blast to play. 400 meter base, that is amazing. You can see with a good crew, with fuel range skills, I get all the way to 496, which is devastating in my opinion when you know how to use it combined with the great camo value. So, in conclusion, this tank definitely gives a good player all the tool it needs, or he needs, or she needs, to carry a game and tackle everything out of this tank. The only real drawbacks this tank has are weak ammo racks, the bad side armor, and that sometimes the turret really trolls you a little bit in that sense. You only have 8 degrees of gun depression, which is more than enough. So if you know how to play properly, and if you like to play brawling medium tanks, this tank will be a joy to play for you. I can not say anything else. I do have to point out I'm personally more of a medium light player, so I am performing better in tanks like a Leopard PTA than I am in a Kampfpanzer 50T. I did learn a lot while playing it. I did learn how to properly use its armor more efficiently over the course of the different battles I've played. But I'm still not 100% up to snuff when it comes to knowing how to push in and knowing when to properly use its armor. I often overestimated its armor, and this is what killed me very, very rapidly. I did also learn to play a little bit more passively in the beginning of the game, to not get YOLO rushed in that sense. Still, if you have the opportunity to get the Kampfpanzer 50T, go for it. It's a very fun tank in my opinion to play. It gives you, as already mentioned, all the tools you need to carry games and potentially be a disastrous foe for your enemy team. That is my opinion of the Kampfpanzer 50T. I hope you had also a blast listening to me brabbling about this tank and giving you my personal review of this tank. The gameplay you have seen in the background was in the end the last game I needed to get the third gun mark. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want, I can do a more in-depth analysis of this replay in the background. Let me know in the comment section below if you want to see that. Did you like this style of review? Then also let me know and show me your appreciation. What can I do better? I'm always up for feedback. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. If not, shit happens. As always, stay safe, stay at home, and thanks for watching. Cheers, guys.